as amidst the European family. Perhaps like Eric said before, that if you feel in peace with yourself, you feel in peace with your origins, then you see how you can have a contribution from your perspective of the world, and at the same time be in peace and learn from the others. So today is the International Day for Peace, and we all definitely aspire to live in a world of peace, and perhaps that we can live a world of peace to our children. But I think that we have to look at the core issues that are preventing us from achieving such a goal. In the cosmic time, our lives are very short, and we grow. From a young age, we have the family perspective, our religious perspective, if you're religious, or any kind of politics that you were told as a young person. So from geographic perspective, until you realize that there are other ways of looking at the world. At the time that you see a bit of the larger picture, you are already about 40, 50, and as life is so short, it's very difficult to make a swift change and to make a contribution to have a peaceful society until we overcome our fears. And we see very much that strategies that are involved to promote peace are very much linked to the 4 years of a government, or the success of this head of organization or that religious leader. Everyone is a bit looking on their own little timeline, which is pretty short. We see that success stories in the history of humanity, they were achieved because they had principles. They had certain principles. Yes, it was not about gold, not only about iron or bronze. It was about certain principles that made these groups of societies grow and advance and have a strong influence. Let me just bring a small example, personal example. I come from, my family left from about 100 years ago from Syria to Argentina. In Argentina, the Muslim and Jewish community, as I said, arrived about 100 years ago, and usually they did not come with any money or any important, something valuable in their hands. They came with principles of hard work and commerce. And today, you see a very flourishing Muslim and Jewish community, very hard workers, very successful in business, and very thriving. We had a Muslim, well, he was Christian, but we had a Syrian president, an Argentine but from Syrian origin, Carlos Menem. We have in government today a minister of environment, a reformed Jewish rabbi. So you see these two groups of people who were very successful, and they became part of the entire fabric of the society. And this is because these principles they had of hard work. If you allow me to bring the example of Israel, such a young country who today, we know if you look at statistics, is one of the richest countries in the world. Yes, it's not a secret. Nevertheless, there's a lot of poverty. But they arrived in this land, the Jews that came from Europe after the Holocaust, with literally nothing. They didn't arrive in a country where there was oil or natural resources, but they arrived with principles of education, of commitment, that they were committed to build a country with success. And you see today, they're thriving in science and technology. So if you look at long periods of time and long patterns of the most important elements that we have for humanity, for success of societies, are these values that we have. And today, I think one of the a big lack that we have in our society is the understanding of the other, as was very much said here by all of you. And one of the ways we are a small association, but one of the ways we are trying to make a difference in this perspective is to get people to know the other. Yes, when we are in darkness, when we are in ignorance, we fear, and then it results in hate towards the other because he may do something wrong against me. So this past year we gathered groups of students. We brought them to our center. We had this conversation. We allowed them even to ask the questions that are politically incorrect. What is the relation with Jews, Israel? What do we have in common in Muslim culture, in Jewish culture? We sat around 2 weeks ago with Jewish and Muslim businessmen. We spoke about initiatives that we can work together. Building in a common interest, building not only in a lofty and spiritual principle of peace, but building in what do we have in common. And then you see right away that there's such a massive amount of the human element that we have in common. Yes, you grew somewhere else, I grew in a different place, we have different visions of the world, but there is a lot that we can learn from each other. And such a vision, I don't think it's utopian to create an environment where people can understand each other, because it happened before. If we talk about Muslim Jewish community, for example, in the Middle Ages, we had such a beautiful exchange of culture, exchange of theological debates. If you open books of that age, of that period, you see that their theology or their principles of morality that they talk, they're not talking about if you have a Jewish soul or if you are a Muslim, if you're a Christian. They talk about principles, the universality that they had in their language about 800 years ago. We lack that today. And I agree with you, Sylvie. Yes, Sylvie, I agree with you that it's important also that our citoyenneté does not come only from religion. It has to also come from our commitment for a common interest, that we are interested in have a peaceful and successful country. Nevertheless, I think it has a very strong impact when your rabbi or your imam or someone who represents for you a spiritual figure, he tells you that you have to be peaceful. He tells you that the principles of the history of your nation, of your people, of your religion, is about bringing peace in the world. That makes the step happen much faster because it's not so intuitive, unfortunately. Well, and with Lahcen, we are also organizing very soon more of these groups of dialogue with youth, Jewish youth and Muslim youth, to come and to talk together. Very near where we're sitting here in Tour de Taxi, we are joining Play for Peace initiative, who is in Mars, where there's about 2,000-3,000 young people who come to play sports together. And this year we're going to have also some Jewish music. We're going to dance together. We're going to have a stand of Jewish food, just to enjoy our human side together. I think this is not changing the world, but as you all spoke about the silent majority, I think we all have to stand and be strong. In the other side, in the extremists and these crazy people that are threatening our society, they're very committed. But we have to see a double amount of commitment from our side, the people who are standing here for peace. In Talmud, they say that if you are sure and another person is wondering about a maybe, so the sure wins against the maybe. So we have to be much more committed than the extremists are, and we have to be ready to make sacrifices and to do what it has to be done, to perhaps lose sometimes legitimacy from our own group because we are too open to others. I don't care. We have to be committed, and this has to happen. The future, the way the world will look in 50 years, it depends from us today, what we do, literally. So I am glad to sit around the table with such committed people. Thank you very much.